It's time for weekly makes. It's time for weekly makes. Hi, my name is Allie, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the maker behind Crochet in the Mud, where I do both pottery as well as crochet plushies. And today is Friday, and not my typical Monday recording, and that is because tomorrow is market day, so I am still a little behind on my not Monday videos, but we're catching up ever so slowly. So I did have a market last weekend, and then I have one tomorrow, and then I have one the following Saturday. So we are in the midst of our October spooky season markets, but we're not making any more Halloween plushies at this point. Whatever I have, I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that it sells. So just like I mentioned last week, this is going to be pre-filmed, so this is Friday evening. It is now 5:30, so I've got to do a couple last minute things before the market. For the most part, everything is tagged except one group of plushies, and that's because I literally just finished them right before recording this. But what do we think of this angle? I brought my tripod to my market, and now it's missing a piece. So we're kind of just winging it right now, and I feel like this is a pretty normal angle for me. And I think the lighting is better than normal. I know my lighting is not the best when I film over here. I'm trying to figure it out, but there's a window literally right here, and even with the blinds closed, I can't seem to get rid of, like you can see, it's the sun's going down, I know, but I'm still getting a little bit of a glare on my arm. But anyhow, I'm working on trying to fix all those. I know those are issues. Hopefully today we don't get the issue like last weekly makes. Was it weekly makes? Or actually I think it was my market video that I just posted Friday. So the video right before this one, where for some reason it was going in and out of me being a normal color to me being like almost grayscale. I don't know, it was being weird. But this is going to be Saturday's makes through Friday's makes instead of my typical Monday to Sunday. But I did make a handful of things at the market, and it actually posed quite a challenge for me. So let me grab quickly what I made at the market, and I'll kind of show you. So first thing were chickens. Now, when I went to my market, I knew I had two. And I was like, you know what? Chickens are an easy make at the market. I can do chickens while I'm there. So I made a bunch of chicken bodies. Didn't sell any the first day. And I brought stuffing. And I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I don't need to stuff these. So then for day 2, I switched out the yarn I brought and put all of these chicken bodies at home and left them here. To then remember that I had indeed sold one on Saturday. Now the reason I'd forgotten is because they bought it as I was packing up, so it kind of like went right over my head. And then we did end up selling, spoiler, the second chicken. So chickens did sell out at my 2-day market technically, but we now have 4, and I am noticing a decline in bird sales. I'm not sure if it's just a fluke for these past couple of markets, but like I know 2 markets ago I didn't sell any chicken, or sorry, any ducks. That would have been the video just before this. And then we might have sold 1 for the 2-day market. I'm not entirely sure. But, and then like the chickens, they're not doing as well. They used to be in my best sellers every week. So maybe it's just a fluke, or maybe they're starting to reach the end of their lifetime. Just like how right now axolotls and capybara are the popular thing. Maybe the birds are just going away. Or maybe I'm just crazy and I've had some interesting markets. But we'll have 4 of these now for markets. And everything I made this week is going to go towards my market inventory. I know sometimes I put some of it towards my store. But with my 3 markets in a row, and then I don't work a shift at the eclectic store that I do have to work shifts in as part of my contract until after all those markets are done, and the other store, Painted Tree, I do probably need to restock, but like I know they need possums and I don't have any gray yarn right now, so I can't exactly make them possums. And then I really need herb strippers, and those are like the main things they need restocked, so I need to definitely put that on my calendar. It was on my calendar, I just ignored it. So I think after my 3 markets are over, I have a 2 or a 3 week break of markets, so I'll definitely focus on these stores then. But the other thing I was working on at the market were chick with frog hats, and both of these were Saturday makes. So I ended up making 6 for the week. Some of them were at the market, some of them I did just finish up the other day. But the biggest issue with these are they use 4 eyes, and when I was at the market Saturday, I kind of knew this was an issue, but I was running very, very low on eyes. I think I left the market with 7. I could have made a little bit more, but I just didn't. So we had to get creative when it came to Sunday. But I am now officially out of this green yarn, so Henry did order me one because I told him that I was cheating on, we have these ghosts with hats that I always stock when it comes to Halloween time. I mentioned them a couple of weeks ago in Not Weekly Makes. If I can find which one, I'll tag it up here. But he's Team Frog Hat, I'm Team Candy Corn Hat. Currently, I've sold 2 frog hats and no candy corn hats. But it uses the same grain, and I told him that I was cheating unintentionally, or I didn't have any more. So I therefore couldn't restock, so we're going to tie, most likely assuming all of the rest of the hat ghosts sell. But it was kind of funny to watch him. He first checked Amazon, couldn't find it, because this is literally called green. The color name is green. It is baby yarn, so I kept telling him, you have to look for the baby line. At one point he found, I think he called it Powell green. It was in the Brights line, and he laughed so hard when I was like, no, that's bright. It's not the right color. And then he also laughed when I immediately knew he was going to then check Michael's, because they don't stock this color. He did not end up finding it on Amazon, but it's going to take a while to arrive. I actually don't even know how much he spent on it. I hope he spent a good amount. Let me check how much he spent. Because if you haven't, or if you've ordered yarn on Amazon, you know sometimes they are outrageous prices. But yeah, this is saying that my yarn will arrive October 17th through 31st. So it's definitely not going to be for that anymore, because it's going to be here too late. Okay, not bad. He paid $12.42. All that to say in a long-winded way of that's what I made Saturday. And then even though I had 5 or 7 eyes, I was like, you know what, it's not worth it. So I tried to brainstorm what can I do without eyes. I ended up getting eyes Wednesday afternoon. So I had 4 days there that I had to kind of figure out what to do. So one of the easiest things was I did make a bunch of tofu turtle shells, and they are just sitting aside for now for later. I feel like I make them all the time, but I guess that means it's because they're selling. So I have a crap ton of shells that one day soon we will get to, and finishing them up and making the body. I typically do that for my tofu turtles and making them an assembly line, where I just have shells, and then usually I immediately go around to doing the bodies, but right now I don't need them. I'm probably getting close to needing them. I know I have 10 for my inventory for markets right now, but I don't know how that's distributed amongst the 3 colors. There's at least 2 of each, because I always put one and then another one behind it. So at the end of the market, I still had my rows of 2 of all 3 colors. So that's just a matter of the last 4. I don't know what colors they are. But I did those at the market, and I made cats at the market as well. I just got to the step that it said to put the eyes in and then cut the yarn. So I ended up making 4 cats total. This is about the only cat I can make at the moment. I am very low on white. I am out of black. I am out of gray. I could theoretically make a Siamese cat, but I'm also very low on the taupe color that I use for those, so that would probably make 1 cat, maybe. I think it would get me a full cat. It's a matter of, can I get a second cat out of it? But I made 2 of each of these colors. This is using 2 of the tweed colors. I don't know which one's which. And then this one's white with one of the tweed colors. I am debating probably going to do a cat festival on November 9th, I believe it is. So please drop me suggestions in the comments of cat patterns. Theoretically not super complex ones that's going to take me 5 hours, but I mean I am open to having a handful of those. But for these I charge $18, and they usually do really well, so hopefully if I do that market, which that one is literally just you pay on your end, so there just has to be room by the time I get around to paying for it. It's run by the same people who do the chocolate festivals, interestingly enough, and tomorrow is a chocolate festival for me. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it. It was definitely a pricey market. I paid $357 for 1 day. But being one of the very few gift vendors definitely helped my sales. So I had very little competition, and I think I did $1,400 for the day. So I am gambling again when it comes to, I once again paid $357 for a 1 day market. But all that to say, I'm debating doing their cat festival. It is a little cheaper. It's $200 something for the day. My only concern is that people might think that these are cat toys that I have. I mean, I could figure out how to do the catnip toys, but with everything that's going on, approaching the holidays, I just don't think that this is the time for me to try to figure out how to do catnip toys. It might just be as simple as just throw catnip in there. But you also have to make sure that the stuffing you use is pet safe and all of that, and it's just not something that I think is doable at the moment. So that's everything I worked on at the market over the weekend. And then I had to kill Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at home without, I guess I should specify, without 16mm eyes. So I typically buy 16 and 12 are my 2 biggest eyes that I use. I do have a handful of other eyes that I rarely use, but 16 and 12. I was out of 16. I had a little bit of 12. So we were out of dragons. So, and these use 12. Why not use them? Also, this is using up some of my other yarn that I haven't touched in a while. I mean, this is my second most used yarn, being Parfait Chunky. But I definitely went down a rabbit hole of Parfait Chunky this week. So I believe everything else I have to show you is in Parfait Chunky. So, very proud of myself for that. I mean, it is, like I said, my second most used yarn. So hopefully we can go down a rabbit hole of using up my other yarns that I unfortunately didn't really touch during Stash by September because it didn't go as planned, but I feel like every time I do a month challenge, it never goes to plan. But these I sell for $54 and I made 5. So these were the first 2 I did. And you can definitely tell how much thinner this pink yarn was. Look at, it's like almost 2 inches shorter. So this kind of threw me off a little bit while I was making some. So these 2 I've made before. This is Seafoam or Sea Glass. One of those, Seafoam, Sea Glass, something like that. And then Bubblegum is the pink color. And I love this combo for everything, and I totally forgot. I was also supposed to make seahorses using this combo, but I now don't have enough yarn to make seahorses out of this combo, because you'll see later I also did this combo in a different plushie. But then I was looking over at my stash, and I needed to use my sparkle yarn up. So the only color that I didn't grab out of my sparkle yarn is the white. So I used up a bunch of the yellow. I paired it with this pink. And then I also did black with pink. And then I ended up actually finishing the pink when I paired it with black. And I had to improvise on the tail and make it a black tip. So the interesting part was I was making these two simultaneously. And I was really nervous about losing yarn chicken on this pink one because I had weighed the yarn. I had already made the wings. So this tiny strip on the outside, I wasn't sure how much of, I think it's 60 grams I use of Parfait Chunky. And I had exactly 60 grams. So I was like, okay, hopefully that little strip is maybe 5 grams. So I should be good in terms of yarn. So I kept pushing through with this one and then was surprised when I had quite a bit left actually. I think it's because of how thin it is. It didn't quite use as much grams. This one I was not expecting to run out of, and this one was actually really thick, especially comparing these two. Like this one is, oh, the tags are in the way. Okay, nose to nose. This one's like 3 inches longer. But yeah, you can definitely see a size difference between these two. This one was really thick for Parfait Chunky. This one was really skinny for Parfait Chunky. So I guess I'll compare the thick one to, I would say this one was normal sized. So like 1/2 inch longer, just a little bit. But sparkly dragons, other dragons, and hopefully these will do well. I have found in my experience of selling these dragons that if you do duo chromed dragons, kind of like how these are all 2 different colors, they sell better than if, say, I did light pink with a darker pink accent, or even just a one tone. I did have a blue dragon that I'd had for a while. It was in Bernat Blanket, but I didn't have an accent color. I just did it all straight that color, and I had it for a long time. So people definitely like the 2 different colored ones. But in the midst of me doing dragons, I was also doing jellyfish because I also sold out of jellyfish at the market, and the 2 colors that I typically do, I don't have enough yarn to make another one. So I ended up doing those same 2 combos that I showed you, and that's why I said I no longer have enough yarn to make a seahorse. So it's definitely on the to-do list to order some yarn, especially because right now Premier is doing a sale of 20% off any yarn line with Parfait in the name, which also includes Parfait Plush, which they just released. So I do have plans to purchase that, but I made a sales goal for myself at my last market in order to buy yarn, and I did not make that sales goal. So I'll probably make another sales goal that I have to beat tomorrow to buy yarn. Or maybe I'll just cave after all of this. But that 20% off is good for the entire month of October. And I do have a link in my description if you want to buy yarn. It helps me out. It does give me a commission, but that's literally all I get. So I would be recommending this yarn anyway, even if I didn't get a commission. I don't think anyone's used my link at all. I just was excited when I found out anyone can sign up to get a link. But I do need somebody to use it within the first 6 months. So please, somebody use that link. But these are the first 2 I made. I ended up making a total of 9, actually. So I was also trying to get rid of, I do have some Just Chenille yarn that I've had for a long time. So I used Just Chenille in the top, and then Parfait Chunky in the tentacles, which this is very similar to the purple that I usually offer. And then I also did that with this, where the top is Just Chenille and the bottom is Parfait Chunky. Interestingly though, so this one was caked up and then this one wasn't. But somehow I got 3 out of this and only 2 out of this one. Not sure how. And then the last 2 jellies I looked over and I had got this bloom. I think it's called Tulip. So I made one with a pink accent on the bottom and one with a green accent on the bottom. I think I like this one better. But I was kind of scared to do this one. But this one also was very thick, the top of it, for Parfait Chunky. So these came out much bigger. If you can kind of compare the tops. Or I guess this one was really skinny yarn. Let me pick a different. Okay, we'll compare these two. Not as big of a difference. But lots of new colors for that. I have a feeling those will do really well at the market, just like how the dragons, people like the two different colors. Hopefully that goes the same for the jellies. They seem to do pretty well any market I bring them to. I do charge $21 for the jellies. They do take a little bit of time. And now I'm debating if I go through all of my Big Twist Posh collection and try to make a bunch of dragons and jellies out of it. Just because I haven't touched that yarn in so long and it's taking up so much space. Because I have one of every color and then multiple colors have more than one skein. So I need to figure out what to do with that. But the final plushie I have for you is a new one, you could say. I did a long time ago make one, but the thing with my plushies are I make them twice before I can price them. So the first time is to understand the pattern, and then the second time is to actually price it. So I weigh all of the materials out, I time myself to see how long it takes so that I can pay myself an hourly wage. And then on top of that, you do need to add a profit margin. So I had made one a long time ago, and it's just been sitting around. And I was like, I need to finally make that again so that I can actually put it out. And also, I just want it done. So I finally made another shark to price it. Now I am going to charge $22 for these, and I made 3 this week. So that means 4 going to markets. And this is the one I still need to tag. Everything else has been tagged for the week. But it's super cute, super detailed. And this is from Crochet Grove. She has a pattern pack of sea creatures that are no to low sew. So this one was a low sew. You do have to sew on all 3 of these fins, but the tail is crocheted into the body. And it's a pretty easy make. I want to say it took me 30 minutes. But this is the same price that I charged for the seahorse from that same pattern that I mentioned earlier, but I don't have any to show you because I forgot that I was supposed to make them this week. Usually I will write stuff down, but I did not make a list this week because I kind of went into it like, you can play this week because, spoiler, most of the things that sold at my market last weekend were more like the one-offs. So like I had the one seahorse, I think I had 3 jellies, but they all sold. And then like my typical not bestsellers were the ones that were selling. Whereas like I mentioned earlier with the birds, the chickens, the ducks, the tofu turtles, the axolotls, I had a bunch of those ready to go. And I had a bunch in my back stock so I could replace them once they sold. But that's not really what was selling, it was the other stuff. So I'm pretty set on all my bestsellers, so I was letting myself play this week. As you could kind of see with all of the experimenting with colors of the jellies and the dragons. So that's why I didn't really make a list, I was kind of just whatever I wanted to do. And then I didn't even make the list of what all I had finished this week until this morning when I was tagging everything. So I didn't even know where I was at in terms of like my goal of inventory per week. So I guess we'll go over that real quick. For this week, we ended up making 31 plushies. So not too many, but still a decent chunk. Most of that is because the dragons were a little bit longer of a make. I do believe they take me an hour 15, I think. And I wasn't, 100% focused. I was watching a Netflix show, and then I was watching other crochet YouTubers. But those 31 plushies did come out to $765 of added inventory, with all of that going to my markets because I mentioned I'm not focusing on stores right now. So that means that subtracting out plushies we sold last week and then adding in what I made this week, we brought our total back to $5,023. So I feel very comfortable going into markets with $5,000. So I'm glad we were able to bring it back up to that, especially with me not having even known where I was at in terms of inventory until a couple hours ago. That is cheating technically. But we're going to just ignore the fact that neither of my jackalopes sold at Jackalope Festival, and I have decided that this guy is mine. So I have not subtracted him out from inventory, but we're just going to ignore that for now and pretend he's still in inventory. There are 2 of them, so there's still 1 in market inventory. But I wanted to keep it above the 5,000, so I forgot to bring him tomorrow. I do also need to repair one of my plushies. So last week we talked about the cow. It's actually still sitting here. I have not sacrificed him yet. That got lost to the chalk staining. But when I went to go set up on Saturday, I noticed that my bear, that is from the scrap yarn video, I'll link that up here if you want to watch it, both of the eyes had popped out. So I have been seeing other people mention that this brand of sinker eyes on Amazon is not good and the backings break. And I was just like, they're just putting the eyes in wrong. No. So both eyes popped out. I am going to try to glue them back in. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, that's still staying in market inventory. I am going to work on that tonight and hopefully I'm able to fix him. But we'll find out. So I'm feeling really good about this market. Like I mentioned, the one I did in April by the same people, that was also a chocolate festival, I did about $1,400, so I'm hoping to do about the same. The only stressful part is Henry will not be joining me, so I'm doing this market solo. And I remember last time I got overstimulated and had to tell Henry to take over so I could take like a 30-minute breather and just have my head down because it was just so crowded. So I'm hoping to have the same amount of crowd but not get overwhelmed. I also need to figure out what I'm packing for lunch tomorrow, because usually he's in charge of getting food. So I also need to figure out what I'm feeding myself for dinner. So that's a problem for future me. But I don't know how my market the following weekend is gonna go. Yeah. We'll see. I've never done that one before. It sounded fun. It seems like it's going to be like a family event and there's going to be like a pumpkin patch and all of those things. At the very least, it sounds like it'll be fun to go to. But the interesting part was there were 2 different vendor fees. So you could choose to be like in the middle of the action for, I think I paid $275, or you could pay, I think it was $75 to be like on a side street, which is a crazy price difference. So Henry did talk me into doing the more expensive option, so hopefully I don't regret that, because that's a lot to pay for. Again, that's a 1-day event. That's 6 hours, and hopefully it pays off. But we'll find out. So thank you so much for watching this video. Send me all of the best juju in the comments and wish me luck on sales for both of those markets. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!